Hey, so Oppo's been on a bit of a mad one when it comes to releasing smartphones here in the UAE. A couple of months ago, or rather maybe 8 months ago, we saw the Oppo Reno5 series, and that was supposed to be its flagship lineup for that sort of period of time. And then just a couple of months later, we saw the Oppo Reno6 series with 3 different smartphones, which seemed very incremental at best. The flagship was a bit different in terms of the processing power, but that aside, everything else stayed pretty much identical to the previous version. And although I thought that Oppo did that to catch up the rest of the world with the UAE, with China, it seems like in China, the Oppo Reno7 series is now finally going official. So it comes out on the 25th of November, which at the time of making this video is 3 days away, but it's already listed online with pretty much all the specifications for both of the smartphones, the Reno7 5G as well as the Reno7 Pro 5G. So I thought I'd make a video going over the specifications and how those are a bit different from what we see already in the Reno 5 and the Reno 6 series. And I'd like to start off with the design of both of these smartphones. I feel like the design is sort of the biggest change when it comes to the Reno 7. So first of all, the camera island on the back sees a completely different design, which is something I'm in favor of. I like the revamped camera design, and that's something that makes the smartphone stand out. Number 2, the camera design also adds to the fact that it's got an LED notification indicator at the back, so it's basically got a border of light surrounding the camera island, which I assume is for one, looks, but also for your notifications. So I like what Oppo is doing with this. It's a bit unique, it's a bit different out there, so definitely a +1 from me. And the last thing I want to touch on when it comes to design is the durability of the smartphone. Now, this is something that we don't usually see, but the Oppo Reno7 series has been seen on video crushing walnuts, and that's something that you don't typically use to prove the durability of the smartphone. But hey, Oppo's done it here, and I guess that points to the fact that the Oppo 7 series or the Reno 7 series is going to have some sort of a ridiculous durability rating. That could be Corning Gorilla Glass Victus on the back of the smartphone, or it could be something in-house that Oppo has prepared. That's something we'll find out on the 25th of November. But that aside, we've also got some details on the specifications of these two smartphones. Now, for reference, this is the Reno 6 Pro in front of me, and on the Reno 7 series, you're going to find a 6.55-inch 1080p display. Now, the difference between the Pro and the normal is going to be very, very simple. The Pro is going to have a 120 Hz refresh rate display, which means it's going to be a slightly smoother panel on the front, whereas the regular smartphone is going to have a 90 Hz panel, so maybe not as smooth when you compare it side by side, but still plenty smooth enough for your daily multitasking. And that brings me on to the processors on both of these smartphones. Now, the Pro is going to have a Dimensity 1200 Max chipset. I've never used that in my life, so I don't know the performance of that chipset, but the regular is going to have the Qualcomm Snapdragon 778G processor. Both of these are going to support 5G, and inside you're going to find either 8 or 12 gigabytes of RAM, and I wouldn't be surprised if Oppo has that feature built in where you can take extra sort of the storage space on the smartphone to double as virtual RAM. I think they've been doing that for the past year or so, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it on the Reno 7 series as well. On the software front, we can expect Oppo's ColorOS to be front and center of both of these smartphones with either Android 11 or Android 12. I suspect it'll be Android 12 and ColorOS 12 all at once because this is, I think, one of their major launches in China, so that is something that we should look forward to. And with ColorOS 12 already being announced, it will only make sense for these smartphones to have that software on board. Now, being very similar in size, the actual battery capacities of both these smartphones are also going to be identical. It's a 4500 milliamp hour cell on both of these smartphones, but 65 watt charging on the Reno 7 Pro 5G, which means a 0 to 100% charge in about 30 to 32 minutes, whereas on the Reno 7 regular, it's going to be a 60 watt charging capacity or speed, so slightly slower charging speeds, but I don't think it makes a massive difference at the end of the day. What does make a difference, and I think what really differentiates both of these smartphones, is the optics that you find on the back. The cameras are extremely different, and I think that's where you're going to find the major differences between the regular as well as the Pro Reno 7. So starting off with the Oppo Reno 7 Pro 5G, this thing is going to have a 50 megapixel primary camera alongside a 13 megapixel telephoto camera with 2x optical zoom, another portrait camera, and then a 64 megapixel ultra wide angle camera to complete that quad camera system. Now, these things are going to bring in a few things that I want to discuss. Number one, it's going to have a really good macro mode, because I assume the ultra wide angle camera is going to be able to leverage all that megapixel count to make sure that your macros look amazing. So that's definitely something to look out for. And number two, because of the lack of discrepancy, I'd guess, between the 50 and the 64 megapixel wide and ultra wide angle cameras respectively, you're going to be seeing some nice looking wide and ultra wide transitions. And if Oppo can, make sure that their software is optimized for photography with these two cameras and colors, it's going to be some great camera specifications for your device. The Oppo Reno 7 regular, on the other hand, is going to be slightly different. It's going to have a 64 megapixel primary camera alongside a 16 megapixel ultra wide angle camera and then a 2 megapixel macro camera. So straight away, you're losing out on telephoto, where you can't zoom into faraway objects without losing quality, and you're also losing out on a dedicated macro mode with that 64 megapixel count. Yes, the 2 megapixel sensor is there, but it's not going to do a good job for about 90% of your scenarios, so that's definitely a downgrade. In terms of your front-facing cameras, there's nothing really set in stone, but I'd assume it's either a 16 or a 32 megapixel selfie camera with nothing that is out of the ordinary, and it's a hole punch design. That's something that is finalized. You can see it on screen. You can see it on the renders of the smartphone. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the Reno 7 Pro series in general. It's already up on Chinese store JD, so if you want to check it out for yourself, a link down below is provided. You can go ahead and check it out for yourself. But yeah, thanks for watching this one. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments once again. This was Vaibhav, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.